My name is Peter Kawalek. I'm professor at Loughborough University, Manchester University in the United Kingdom. And the questions are, what is a non-fungible token? What is the blockchain system? How do they relate to the creative industries, games, and indeed the arts more generally? And then finally, why is it all much more important than that? Let's take a look, shall we? So, here we are, the creative industries, games and blockchain, or why we are now seeing the greatest unlock of artist opportunity in 100 plus years. Let's start with a little bit of recent history and the 2021 Olympic Games. And do you remember that moment when Barshim and Tamberi decided to share the gold medal for the high jump? They'd been competing against each other, unable to outleap or outjump each other. And one says to the other, hey, let's share it. And they leap into each other's arms, congratulate each other, and history is made. Now, the questions are, let's just say that there is an official digital record of this event. That's all it is, a digital record. But it's official and it's immutable. It means it cannot be erased. It will live for all time. Would you want to own that record? Would you bid for it? Who else would want it and would bid for it? What would they pay? And finally, do you think that over time, as people look back on this historical event of the shared gold medal in Tokyo 2021, do you think that the value of that record would go up, further up? In other words, is it a speculative item? Is it worth financial speculation for this item? Might it become more and more valuable over time? This is what we're talking about with the non-fungible token, non-transferable token. It's just an electronic token, a record of something. At its simplest, it's no more than that, though it can be more complex. But at its simplest, no more complex than a immutable record written to a blockchain system associated with something, maybe an event, like a shared gold medal at an Olympic Games, a record. Let's imagine another use of this non-fungible token. Let's just imagine something. Indeed, let's take Imagine, the song by John Lennon and Yoko Ono from 1974. It became one of the most played songs of the 20th century. What if today the owners of that song were to create an official NFT, non-fungible token, for Imagine? In other words, an official record. And maybe there's just one official record. Would you want it? Would you bid for it? Who else would bid? What would be the price paid? How much would be paid? And do you think over time, as people reflect on this historical song by the famous John Lennon, Yoko Ono, do you think the value would go up? Would it be a speculative item? So we see here the essence of what we are talking about with non-fungible tokens. And there are opportunities for the use of such tokens as a kind of augmentation and additional functionality in and around games and other industries, other creative activities. So, for example, you might be in relation to games recording key battles, key events, key victories, key tournaments, and different numbers of stakeholders in those, or just interested parties might be bidding for them and saying, hey, I'd like to own that. You know, these special records, they're immutable, remember. these non-fungible tokens in blockchain systems. And there might be more and more different ways of creating value in relation to games. Maybe there might be special cards that are restricted in number, but which confer powers in a game and become tradable. Some special card that's tradable, again, a record in a blockchain system. Or maybe quite obviously, in a way, something like Decentraland, the game Decentraland, might gain from records of plots of land or other assets that might be traded as tokens. Now, this is happening already. This is not news. This is already underway, but it basically is representing an augmentation, an additional area of activity, interest, excitement, and revenue in the games industry. And it's not just games, you know, it can be so many different aspects of our kind of cultural lives, our creative lives, and our artistic industries, as we've seen already through the example of sport, for example. So there's something happening here, and it might be, you know, like, for example, we've seen with the movie Space Jam, released last year, a whole load of different non-fungible tokens made available, you know, token records for fans, for interested people to get related to LeBron James or some of the cartoon characters, Bugs Bunny, etc. You know, so it's another revenue stream around the movie, and people are buying non-fungible tokens. Or we might have a look at the music industry, for example, and see what's happening there, and you know, whether how artists can use these records to relate more closely to fans. The picture here shows Imogen Heap, the artist who is most closely, I think, associated with the use of blockchain systems above and beyond non-fungible tokens that are allowing her to sell, and her and other musicians to sell music directly to fans. By the way, no Spotify and no Apple Music. With this technology, and this is where it begins to get really serious, we disrupt the disruptors. Yes, fans can invest directly in artists. They can buy music from artists. They can participate in more and more different ways, working with artists over music, over the transfer of a digital file, registering those transfers on blockchain systems, and sometimes buying tokens to associate with how they've contributed, how they've become engaged, how they've related to the artist and her work or his work or their work. And it doesn't just have to be what we know as the kind of digital arts of the modern era. We could also think about fine art. Why not? Fine art, the historical paintings, for example. The picture shows this picture by Baronov Rossini, sold as a non-fungible token. You know, so fine art, you know, the estates that control fine art can also sell non-fungible tokens associated with that art. And so we see what's happening here is something special, something spectacular in relation to creative industries. But the picture is much more important than that, as I mentioned at the top end, is that we are also into a kind of new era much more broadly, because what we're talking about is ultimately Web 3.0. And different ways of calibrating it, different ways of describing it. But take it like this, is that where we started in the 1990s with Web 1.0 is basically to say that we had then websites. And then Web 2.0 gives us the read-write web, read/write web, read and write web, which is basically then brings in the age of social media. And Web 3.0 is to align the web with blockchain systems. And that effectively puts a mechanism on tap, available always, which allows you to write a contract, a smart contract with somebody. You know, if X and Y do Z, if X and Y do Z. smart contracts. And beyond smart contracts are more complex systems known as decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, D-A-O, DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, more complex sets of smart contracts, which potentially live in a kind of cloud and provide complex services to all sorts of people, which means that effectively, as I said above, is that there's always a kind of blockchain on tap. It's always available to us. What does that mean? It means that we end up with a kind of a new world of kind of constant available trust. We can kind of always create some kind of record that is immutable and shows that something happened on some condition. And that means that we can trade over many things. You know, we've talked about the creative industries here, and maybe that's the main message for now. But going ahead, we could be talking about DeFi, decentralized finance, DeFi, decentralized finance. Or we could be talking about land records and making investments in people who hold land records or other asset records on the blockchain, available across the world, helping the developing world to obtain an investment every bit as much as it excites interest in the developed world and the world of, say, the creative arts and media. So what we're looking at, to summarize going ahead, is a paradigm shift, a really fundamental paradigm shift. It amounts to a decentralization. Remember what I said. Here we begin to disrupt the disruptors. We begin to push the web into a kind of a new mode. That quote I gave you at the top about the biggest opportunity in 100+ years, that's from Scott Belsky of Adobe. He's basically saying for artists, this is the greatest unlock of potential value. This is the greatest unlock for 100+ years. We can reshape that industry. We can reshape the creative industries, decentralize it, create new activities, do more things. But it's not just the creative industries, is it? And Sir Tim Berners-Lee himself, the inventor of the web, has said that the web as he envisaged it has not really arrived yet. Or has it now? Because Tim Berners-Lee talked about a decentralized structure of the web, whereby many people could participate in many ways. And with Web 3.0, this blockchain world supporting NFTs and other applications like smart contracts and DAOs, decentralized finance, that's the paradigm shift. That's the paradigm shift. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it, and look forward to engaging further.